or Monday against Utah. Anthony Davis's debut with the Dallas Mavericks will also be delayed. A sore foot will keep AD out of tonight's game at Philadelphia. The Mavericks are at Boston on Thursday. Top 5 women's college basketball teams in this week's Associated Press Top 25 poll. Undefeated UCLA is still number 1 at 21-0, followed by South Carolina, Notre Dame, Texas, and UConn. USC dropped from 4th to 7th after their 15-game winning streak was snapped Sunday at Iowa. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.show.com. That's thetavismiley.show.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, 2 conversations. Up first, the worker-led fight for better conditions and higher wages at Amazon continues. We will talk with the Reverend Ryan Brown about Amazon CAUSE, Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment. On the B side of our 2, a conversation with John Boyd Jr., the president and founder of the National Black Farmers Association. The organization has sued the federal government for breach of contract over $5 billion of promised debt relief. In our third hour, 2 more conversations. Up first, a dialogue about the history of Black History Month and the present-day challenges of recognizing and celebrating Black history on college campuses. We'll be joined by the chair of the Department of Africana Studies at Kent State University, Dr. Mutabu Ankanta. On the B side of our 3, we'll speak with Dr. Joseph L. Jones about his new book, Black, Not Historically Black, Toward the Pan-Black College and University. Dr. Jones is a former HBCU president himself and current executive director of the W.B. Du Bois Southern Center for the Studies in Public Policy at Clark Atlanta University, has the time come to re-examine the educational model of HBCUs. We'll talk about that on the backside of Hour 3. But in this first hour today, let's talk politics and more with author and UCLA professor Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, where he teaches African American Studies. A lot of professors on this program today. I don't know how that happened. I'm reading this rundown like every half hour. I'm talking to a different black professor. I ain't mad at y'all. Dr. Hunter, how are you today, sir?
I'm blessed in the city.
You're blessed in the city. It's good to see you, man. Glad to have you in studio with us today. Man, I'm laughing because, again, on any given day, I never know how the show's going to shake out, right?
Absolutely.
I got a team. We're booking and producing stuff every day, and some days I walk in. I was laughing one day. One day I had all white people. Right. One day I had all Negroes. One day I had all women. One day all men. Today all professors. There's no rhyme or reason to it. We take it as it comes, right? And we book people when they can show up. A quick note from yesterday. I mentioned when Ben Crump was on yesterday about this national memorial service and rally this Thursday in Pasadena. That is still happening. I got word late last night that the start time has changed. I mentioned to you yesterday that this Thursday, February the 6th, that the program will begin at 12 noon. It has changed to 11 a.m. They've moved it up. I think there's some big-name people showing up, and they had to make some accommodations to get them there. So you heard being mentioned yesterday a number of names of persons who they expect to be there, people like Stevie Wonder, Kamala Harris, and others. And so the program Thursday evening here in Southern California at the First AME Church in Pasadena, not the one here in L.A., the First AME Church in Pasadena, 1700 North Raymond Avenue. That program now will commence on Thursday at 11 a.m., not 12 noon. Featuring the Reverend Al Sharpton, Attorney Ben Crump, for this National Action Network Memorial and Rally for those who lost their lives in the wildfire. Once again, 11 a.m. on Thursday, not 12 noon if you expect to attend or you're coming to Southern California to be a part of this. You will certainly see it all over national news on Thursday, but for those who are in the Southern California area listening to me right now, it's 11 a.m. Thursday and not 12 noon. That programming note I wanted to get to you right away. Let me start with a couple of broad questions for Dr. Hunter, and then we'll jump from there. Broadly speaking, and this I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting annoyed by this. I was just saying to Marcus when we came on the air, this is annoying me to some extent. I'm trying to figure it out myself. Everybody I talk to, all of my colleagues, we're all trying to figure it out in this news business. But we are in the first 100 days, and it would be trying to find the right word, more than just wrong. It'd be malpractice, essentially, intellectual malpractice, if we didn't cover these issues as aggressively as we are, certainly in the first 100 days. And yet, I'm of two minds about this because I ain't stuck on stupid. I know what Trump is doing.
Right.
He's playing me and everybody else like a fiddle, throwing all this stuff at us, trying to keep us distracted, right? Yes. And to some extent, one could argue it's working. Here we see breaking news today that Donald Trump, that the White House, in fact, is preparing an executive order to abolish the Department of Education. Now, I've raised this issue 1,000 times. I talked to Randy Weingarten recently, head of the AFT, American Federation of Teachers. I've talked to others. Like, what is the point of nominating Linda McMahon, unqualified though she may be? What's the point of nominating this lady from the World Wrestling Federation to be Secretary of Education? And now there's an executive order about to be signed to abolish the department. So it's just a bunch of it's a bunch of nonsense in a lot of ways, and yet here we are in the first 100 days forced to talk about it because this stuff does matter to people like you and me. So when we come forward, we'll get started in this conversation with Dr. Hunter. I'll let him loose for the rest of the hour. Glad to have him in the studio. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Hey, good morning.
you're heading the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code MOTOR for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MOTOR for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code MOTOR.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I lack a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer? Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
I have a dream today.
From slavery and segregation to the Great Migration to our present day rising, the Black experience in America is a story of resilience, achievement, and unstoppable spirit. This February, we're curating amazing conversations celebrating the heroes, the pioneers, and the everyday people who made history. Black History Month on KBLA Talk 1580. Together, we carry the torch forward. Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Let's get started for real with Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, professor at UCLA, African American Studies. Delighted to have him on for the hour to talk about a number of topics. I start with the news today that the White House is preparing an executive order to abolish the Department of Education. You're much smarter than I am. You're a PhD. I'm just a lowly talk show host. Maybe you can explain this to me. What is the point of nominating someone to run the department? And now we hear an executive order is coming to abolish the department. What does that mean, broadly speaking? Is Linda McMahon there to oversee the dismantling? How do you read all this?
Yeah, the first thing is like what people say in the culture now, which is the following: the whites are whiting. You know, where part of
say that again.
The whites, they are whiting.
Yes.
You know, and I think part of what I see with a lot of this is one, read subversively, which is I like to read underneath. Why weren't we in this kind of whiplash when Joe Biden was president? I'm just saying. We didn't have 100 days of relentless forward momentum on progressive issues where we get whiplash, so many positive things happening all over the place. It was a couple of things and then it kind of went quiet, you know. So first, what I keep seeing is that apparently the executive branch can light the world on fire. They can do stuff that the Congress is supposed to do. They can do things that the judicial branch is supposed to do. They can disempower. They can tear down. They can build up. They can bring in billionaires to be co-president. It's just all of these different options that I think before we never really saw. Now on to...
Hold that thought. You're moving too fast. Yeah. I love this point so much so that I want to interrogate it just for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Here. How do you read the fact? And it's a powerful point. I made this same point to somebody else the other day. How do you read the fact? And I'm not suggesting, neither are you, that Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, any other Democratic president should have come in and just, been a bull in a china shop like Trump is. We're not suggesting that. Right. The point you're making, which I hear very loud and clear, is that if you have a real agenda, a progressive agenda, and you're the president, you can run that same playbook the way Trump is running his playbook. And we never do that. It's always play nice in the sandbox. It's always go along to get along. Obama didn't do it. Clinton didn't do it. Biden didn't do it. They didn't take their first 100 days to just turn this sucker upside down, advancing an agenda that would not be antithetical to our best interest. What do you make that they understand how to run their playbook
Right.
And we don't.
Yeah, I think first, especially in light of the DNC chair and all of these other shenanigans going on that side, that I hope in addition to the outrage that they have, is that they're also taking notes. Also seeing what it looks like for the Congress to support the president who was elected by 75 million people. We didn't really see that the last go around. I also think part of what's happening to me, and this is living in LA where car accidents abound, is that this is a deep, well strategized political whiplash, where this is getting taken away. This is an injunction. This is going to happen. No funding, some funding, this funding. Now we're going to get rid of the Department of Education. What does that even mean, for example, for historically black colleges and universities? What does that even mean?
It's like the inverse of Oprah, right? You don't get this,
yes,
and
exactly.
You don't get this,
exactly.
and you don't get
exactly.
this, and you don't get this,
exactly.
and you don't get this.
Exactly. Yes. No one's getting anything, but then at the same time, we're seeing people get a lot of stuff. So it's really confusing.
Yeah.
And I think, they often say in the church that the devil deals in confusion. And so part of what I think is important about this is that the confusion is the tactic. Is it really true that they're really going to dismantle the Department of Education, or is that meant to destabilize you physically, mentally, and politically, so that now you can no longer focus on the focus that you might have had when you were thinking about electing Kamala Harris as president? Now you're running around like your pants are on fire. And that's another point. So part of what I see with this is, one, co-pays for therapy are going to be way up, because people going to need it, because this is a lot. And also, as playful as I'm being, I do recognize that people's livelihoods are on the line. I mean, when we hear the discussion about government workers, I've been committing myself to watching 100 Days of Fox News, because I want to see what the victory lap looks like. And part of what's interesting there is that people on Fox News are like, oh yeah, how bad would it be to find out that you can get 8 months severance and do whatever you want for 8 months and quit that job? I was like, but what if you've been on that job for 20 years? What if you're nearing your retirement and your pension, and now somebody's saying, be fired or take 8 months? That doesn't solve your lifetime career goals. Yeah. So even the way that he's politicizing particular types of employees that fall into people's mind, not as the mailman, but instead as some bureaucrat who's just sitting on cash and not going to work. So that's the other component of like the complete, and I think I heard our sister Jasmine Crockett call them divider in chief, that the division is still going on, dividing around things where people have needs like education and nonprofits. These are needs that people have, and people keep thinking of nonprofits that are about stuff that he's up to, not Meals on Wheels, feeding elderly people who can't leave their home.
I tell on myself here now, because when I'm off the air every day, I do 3 hours and try to do my best work every single day. And when I get off the air, at some point in the day, I'm processing how I think the show went. I'm meeting with my team about what I like, what I didn't like, what I think worked, what I think didn't work. And then last night, in the middle of the night, I kind of woke up literally, and it hit me that yesterday, first day of the week, I didn't say a word about the election of the new chair of the DNC. And I literally interrogated myself at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, sitting in my bed, sitting up, like how did I miss that?
Right.
And then it occurred to me, I didn't miss it. I was fully aware of it.
Yeah.
What I had to confess to myself was I was so uninspired.
Yeah, right.
I was so uninspired by the election, by who they chose, not casting aspersion on him, but the profile of the kind of person I think this party needs right now, Democratic Party, does not exist in the person that they chose.
Right.
And so I had to say to myself, oh, that's why I didn't get to it. I had 3 hours. I didn't even mention it yesterday because I was so inspired by the results of the contest. That's my confession. How did you process it, Mr. Martin being elected as the new chair of the DNC?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Because also what we know from the stories is that while he received most of the votes, there was still dissension about who should be in charge. So you have George Soros and others putting in serious money to support another candidate. And then we also see Kamala Harris having a lot of clout in the group, but not really putting her thumb on the scale, as the story says. And I think the big part for me is we see the conversation about black women being this, voting bloc that is very reliable, the backbone, so to speak. But so are black men in this way as well. And we see Jamie leaving. He's a black man. But we don't see a move toward unapologetically black progressive policies. And what I see instead is this kind of focus where it's now still pulling people from a failed campaign. That's the other thing. And that's why it's not inspiring. I'm not inspired by people who lose campaigns. You know, you want to see something fresh, something new, and perhaps maybe them take a risk, you know, take a chance on someone new.
No risk it, no biscuit.
Ah, there you go.
No risk it, no biscuit. Yeah, I had to literally ask myself, why in 3 hours did I not mention this yesterday?
Yeah.
And it wasn't top of mind for me.
Right.
It happened over the weekend, and it just wasn't. I was more concerned about Luka Doncic coming to L.A. and Anthony Davis going to Dallas. I was more excited about that trade than I was about the trade of the new person. I mean, I digress. It just, but it said something to me that as a guy who covers this every day,
right.
it didn't even make my docket yesterday.
Right.
Because I just think in this moment, I'm not so sure that it moves the needle.
Right.
I'm not sure it does anything to inform what the resistance looks like or ought to look like.
Yeah, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries had a pick.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things that I think was a missed opportunity during the campaign is we should have, when there was this whole discussion of how does Kamala support black men, what is she doing? It's like Hakeem Jeffries could have been the whole first black man, you know, Speaker of the House. That is super support for black men, but he was never marshaled as a part of what you're voting for. And then he says who he wants to run the DNC. They don't take his advice either. So it's also this thing where what we want continuously becomes displaced. And then this gets back to the origins of the Democratic Party in the first place, that they were the party that was on the other side of the Civil War. So there is this underneath of anti-blackness that emerges time and time again, even down to, you know, taking a campaign where you go after Republicans rather than increasing the Democratic base. So there's always this outreach to other groups versus doubling down on the groups that support you.
Since you raised it, let me follow you right quick. I've said this many times, as this audience knows, that all of this laser focus on black men during the campaign,
right.
I said then, is temporal. This is just for this moment. Because once we get out of this moment, we're going to return to business as usual. And I understand, no naivete here, that Donald Trump got elected and not Kamala Harris. Maybe if she were there, it might be different. Not holding my breath on that. But black men were all of a sudden the topic du jour.
Right.
And then, poof.
Right.
We're back to being regarded or not regarded as we always have been.
Yeah, and in some cases, we were back to performing at the crypto ball, you know, and, you know, running tunes, running it back. You know, we were back to, and this is, again, I've been, as you know, before, one of my favorite stats out of the election is that 1 in 4 black men in Philadelphia, shout out to the Eagles, voted for making America great again. In the city that my dad always said that don't love brothers. So it's really interesting that Make America Great Again is a statement that does not love brothers. You know, birthright citizenship, which is core to African-American history, is up for debate and challenging. And then you have 1 in 4 black men selecting someone. Now, part of this goes back to the way in which we start defining blackness. And maybe this is a product of the fact that people would have liked to see Kamala with a black husband. I don't know if that would have changed the conversation. But then that gets back to the symbolism of it all and not really what it is that we need. I think the other thing that's really interesting is that a lot of times when we get into the gender dynamic of black men and black women, there's this discussion as if we're in need of different things. You know, we still have a lot of the same needs. You know, we need access, we need opportunity, we need all of those things. And so I think part of what was really divisive was this idea that in talking to black men, there are sets of issues that don't overlap with the needs of the black community writ large and black women in particular.
Hey, Miles and Faraji, find me that clip that I played yesterday of Donald Trump on the birthright citizenship comment in the White House. Find me that clip right quick. Let me know you have it up and I'll play it. While Miles is looking for it, I want to play this because Marcus Anthony Hunter just said something now that I want to, again, interrogate here right quick. And because you're a professor of African American Studies at UCLA, you know where I'm going here. When I came off the air yesterday, you got it, Miles? Well, let me play the clip first, and then I'll tell you what happened when I played it yesterday, the conversations I had when I came off the air, and then I want to get your opinion about something, specifically about how black people should show up, how we navigate this particular issue. So here's Donald Trump being asked 48 hours ago in the Oval Office about birthright citizenship. Pay attention to his response.
Birthright citizenship, sir, do you believe that there are 5 votes on a Supreme Court that would uphold your position?
One what?
5 votes on a Supreme Court.
What position?
Birthright citizenship.
I think so, yeah. Look, birthright citizenship was, if you look back when this was passed and made, that was meant for the children of slaves. This was not meant for the whole world to come in and pile into the United States of America, everybody coming in and totally unqualified people with perhaps unqualified children. This wasn't meant for that. This was meant, when it was originally done, for the children of slaves. And that was a very good and noble thing to do, and I'm in favor of that 100%. But it wasn't meant for the entire world to occupy the United States.
Now, my grandmother, Big Mama, said to me all the time, Marcus Anthony Hunter, that a broken clock is right twice a day. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. So every now and then, Donald Trump is right. He is right about that. That was the intent. That is the backbone of the 14th Amendment. He may be right about the fact as well that he does, in fact, have 5 votes on the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn the way we've done birthright citizenship all these years. And I'm glad he thought it was a wonderful and noble thing. I love noble. It was a noble thing. No, not that it was the right thing to do. Not that it was justice, but that word noble, that it was a noble. It was, no, there's no nobility in that. It's what should have been, right?
Absolutely.
But he uses the word noble. I ain't mad at him about his language. We could parse that all day long. But he's coming down on the side of the Negroes. That this was done for Negroes. And I support that. But it wasn't done for everybody else. So the obvious question is, where then in real time do Negroes stand? Where should we stand on this issue of birthright citizenship?
Yeah, we should think about it as a part of our inheritance, you know, and also a part of our contribution to the country. And I think this is part of why we see a lot of issues around this conversation about immigration, or why we see, for example, many of the Latino voters not understanding that he's talking about them when he's talking about these things. And because we are in many ways America's first test case, you know, we can testify. Our story tells the story of like what it means to not have these things, what it means for the federal government to get involved and roll them back. We were 3/5 of a person. So I think it's important. One, when I hear him say that, I was like, oh yeah, he was a Democrat. You know, one of my favorite Kamala Harris ads was when she showed the check he wrote for her when she was running for like Attorney General of California. So he was a Democrat not that long ago. And so he has a sensibility that he hides and masks. I also think in his comment, what's a little funny is that he says what position? Because he has whiplash. He's like, what thing we talking about today? What is it that I'm destroying right now?
I did so many things today. I did so much today. Which one are you talking about?
It's like, what I need these 5 people for this time? What is it this time? Is it for the bathroom? Is it for transgender? What are we talking about right now? So it's also just revealing the circus that is going on there, that the person who is signing all of these documents is not able to keep up to speed with these things. And birthright citizenship is a fundamental part of the American experience in the Constitution, right? So for him to not have that top of mind when news reporters are asking him about the Supreme Court and all these other things, he's like, what? Can you give me more information?
Now, I'm fascinated to watch, and I will be watching over the coming days, where black people come down on this issue. I've not seen any research or data as yet from Pew, hint, or anybody else who ought to be, I think, researching this. I'm fascinated to know where black people stand on this issue, given that we were, to your point, at the epicenter. It's our story of how the 14th Amendment came to be. In real time, 2025, where do black folks stand on that issue?
Do we even know? You know, that's the other thing. Do we even know?
I'm glad I got half hour left. Much more to cover with Marcus Anthony Hunter of UCLA when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. China is imposing tariffs on U.S. products in retaliation for President Trump's tariffs. Starting February 10th, China will add 15% tariffs on coal and liquefied natural gas and 10% on crude oil, farm equipment, and some cars. The opening bell rings after a rough start to February on Wall Street. Stocks did eventually manage to trim losses after a sharp sell-off yesterday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet with President Trump at the White House today, marking the first foreign leader visit of Trump's second term. Netanyahu is in D.C. as negotiations with Hamas to extend the ceasefire are set to resume. And MLB upheld umpire Pat Hoberg's firing for gambling violations, including sharing betting accounts and deleting key messages. Commissioner Rob Manfred stated there was no evidence Hoberg bet on or manipulated games, but he was dismissed for failing to uphold the game's integrity. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
If you were self-employed or a 1099 contractor and missed work because you had COVID or cared for an immediate family member with COVID in 2021, you may qualify for up to $32,000 for the Sick and Family Leave Credit. Visit taxcreditnow.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers meet up tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Lakers Nation will have to wait a while for Luka Doncic to make his debut in a Lakers uniform. Doncic is recovering from a strained calf muscle that has kept him off the court since Christmas Day. Doncic is also expected to miss the Lakers home game Thursday night against Golden State. His projected debut could be Saturday's home game against Indiana or Monday against Utah. Anthony Davis's debut with the Dallas Mavericks will also be delayed. A sore foot will keep AD out of tonight's game at Philadelphia. The Mavericks are at Boston on Thursday. Top 5 women's college basketball teams in this week's Associated Press Top 25 poll. Undefeated UCLA is still number 1 at 21-0, followed by South Carolina, Notre Dame, Texas, and UConn. USC dropped from 4th to 7th after their 15-game winning streak was snapped Sunday at Iowa. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
If you were self-employed or a 1099 contractor and missed work because you had COVID or cared for an immediate family member with COVID in 2021, you may qualify for up to $32,000 for the Sick and Family Leave Credit. Visit taxcreditnow.com.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair? Who has time to sit it?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1.
Life blooms in beautiful ways. The AFIA Center invites you to celebrate at the end with Red Gala, honoring the strength and resilience of Black women living with HIV. Join us for an evening of empowerment as we launch the Barbara Cambridge Scholarship and kick off Herstory Month with our theme, Life in Full Bloom. Your support helps create vital HIV programming and builds a future where every voice is heard and every story matters. The end with Red Gala, because every flower deserves to bloom. To learn more and to donate, visit theafiacenter.org.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
Tavis Smiley and Marcus Anthony Hunter as we do politics in this first hour. Marcus and I were just talking during that break, just to put a finer point on our conversation about birthright citizenship. And I think every black person listening to me right now needs to think about where you stand on this issue. Now, I think, again, we'll get some data on this, I'm sure, in the days to come, which I think will be, how might I put it, instructive and informative, if not determinative. What we think about this doesn't really matter to the Supreme Court, where Donald Trump, may in fact have the votes, as he suggested earlier in that clip, to overturn birthright citizenship. But if you understand how the 14th Amendment came to be, as I said earlier, a broken clock is right twice a day, including one Donald Trump. I can see ways in which the U.S. Supreme Court could hold true, this conservative court, could hold true to the way it typically sees things, which is to say original intent, and give Donald Trump exactly what he's asking for. If the original intent of the 14th Amendment was to do this, but not this, then we've gone too far. And it's time to rule that unconstitutional. So I can see, again, how they could be true to original intent. That's Clarence Thomas all day long. That's Samuel Alito all day long. Original intent.
Ketanji, them cowrie shells. Rub them. Hold on to them. And then also for all of those out there listening, there's a wonderful book on birthright citizenship by Martha S. Jones, a wonderful black woman historian that I think is well-timed, and you should definitely check it out.
Speaking of well-timed, Bibi Netanyahu didn't waste any time getting to Washington. Unless I missed something, he's the first head of state to come see Trump at the White House. No surprise there. The first head of state, he is in Washington today, Tuesday, meeting with President Trump, trying to reestablish that relationship, that friendship. What do you make of it?
Well, I think part of it, the precursor is the sanctions and disposition that the Trump administration has taken on the International Criminal Court, which found Bibi Netanyahu as an international war criminal. And basically that means, for people who don't know, if they find you anywhere in these streets, they can drag you into a new place and you never make it home. So this also seems like, him getting a free pass to fly and cross the country where he's wanted and all of these other places, and a way to kind of skirt the International Criminal Court. So that's the first thing, is like his arrival demonstrates that ICC may not have the standing it was meant to have. And we should think about that, because it's been utilized to attend to war crimes and violations of human rights over our history. The other thing is, it's really interesting that he's arriving and coming, because the question is what are they going to talk about? I
can answer that.
Yes.
We are told that the purpose of the meeting, no surprise here, is to discuss negotiations for the second phase of this fragile ceasefire with Hamas. So the first phase, 42 days, that the clock is ticking rather quickly.
Right.
And so for all of Trump's bravado and for all the talk on the campaign trail, now we get to see, with him back in the White House, and we've had our own critique. You've had your critique. We've all had our critiques of Biden-Harris, namely Joe Biden and his policy in this regard. Now we get a chance to see what Trump is going to do, and we're going to see that sooner than later. Again, that 42-day clock is already ticking. What's your sense? What's your spidey sense telling you of what we're going to see in the Trump era when that 42-day ceasefire is done?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is why we love KBLA giving us the news. See how he broke that down for us?
Yeah.
This is what's happening. This is what this meeting is about. Great reporting. my spidey sense says, one, the real temperature check is for all of the folks who have been protesting and looking for a ceasefire in that experience for over a year. Mm-hmm. So, one, we are going to find out where Trump really stands on that. And also to figure out, is he going to be enforcing the ceasefire, which was happening toward the end of the Biden-Harris administration, or is he going to give a new, permission slip to, Bibi Netanyahu to do more of whatever it is that he wants? Because again, it wasn't exactly like the ceasefire was something that he seemed like he really wanted to do.
But you recall though, before he got elected, he said that if those hostages are not released, by the time I get there, all hell's going to break loose.
Right.
That's a quote from Donald Trump.
Yeah, he said the Ukrainian war would be over in 24 hours. Yeah, they still at it.
Yeah, exactly. I got it. But I'm only raising that because it gives a sense. It gives a sense, at least then. I mean, Trump is politically schizophrenic. Right. He bounces around all the time. But if you take him at his word then, that all hell was going to break loose, if Gaza... if Hamas had not released those hostages by the time he got to the Oval Office, it does give you a sense of his thinking then. Mm-hmm. Again, we'll see what he and Bibi are talking about today in the White House, but I think that gives us some idea where he's going to be on this, which is to say, I'm not sure U.S. policy is going to change that much between Biden and Trump on this issue. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it could get more severe, where part of what could happen is that he gives a certain kind of new license to Bibi Netanyahu to play around with that ceasefire on some level from the Israeli side. I mean, I was watching, again, I said I'm on 100 Days of Fox News. I saw Senator...
I'm praying for you, buddy. I just pushed you to the tippy top of my prayer list. But go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They had Senator John Fetterman on there, and he's been kind of playing it in the middle in terms of being a Democrat in the Senate. And his whole answer around the issue of Bibi Netanyahu and the ceasefire is that he is pro-Israel. He is there to make sure that the administration is doing whatever it can do to support Israel. That isn't supporting a ceasefire or supporting a two-state solution or supporting the coexistence of both of these places. That is supporting Israel. So I want to say that's also at least a certain kind of Senate context that Bibi Netanyahu is arriving into, which also Donald Trump has yet to feel the pressure that Biden felt around the conflict. So I don't know if people are going to say he is canoodling with a war criminal. Are we going to hear that? Are we going to see that?
Here's my prediction, and this ties back to what we were talking about earlier. As I paraphrase our conversation from moments ago, that the Democrats are spaghetti backs. Too often they can't find their spine. They can't find their spine.
It's the spaghetti backs.
Spaghetti backs, yeah. So here's my prediction, and I'm saying this publicly, obviously. Joe Biden caught all kind of hell from those of us on the left about Gaza. It's going to be fascinating to watch and see, to the point you just made, whether we treat Donald Trump the same way.
Right, exactly.
Democrats love to eat their own. We love to eat our own. I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell you that the pushback that Donald Trump is going to get on this ceasefire, on Israel, Hamas, Israel, Gaza, I can't even fathom that the pushback that he gets is going to come anywhere near what we did to Joe Biden. Right. I just think there's an inconsistency. And on top of that, Democrats are still licking their wounds. They still in their feelings. There is some level of engagement fatigue right now. So for all those reasons and more, I just don't think that whatever Donald Trump does, he's going to catch the kind of hell that Joe Biden caught.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense. Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
From the left.
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, even when we look at the Michigan results around the kind of pro-Palestinian coalition that withheld its vote during the Democratic primary to make that story, when they were doing a survey of the folks and how they voted, many of them voted for Trump. And so I've thought about that as like a really curious case, because people said that they didn't really know where he stood on it, where they were really clear about where Kamala Harris and Joe Biden did. And it's like, well, it's because he doesn't need to talk about it, because he stands on the side of like, there may not be a Palestine.
Yeah. Joe Biden's going to be in Delaware or wherever he is, watching television, looking at Democrats saying, really? I just got two words for y'all. Really? Really? Y'all dragged me on this issue. You dragged me on this issue. And there's some evidence that Kamala didn't get elected because of where she stood on this issue. That she wouldn't pivot. She wouldn't back away from Joe Biden on this issue. Joe Biden's going to be like, really?
Yeah.
Y'all told me a new one on this.
Or as they would say, Genocide Joe was going to say, oh, really? Killer Kamala is going to say,
exactly.
What's Trump's tagline? What goes with T?
That I stand down. I stand down. But I want to be wrong about this.
Yeah.
But my spidey sense is telling me I'm going to be right about this. Yeah. That Donald Trump is not going to catch it the way that Joe Biden caught it. And that, again, makes a statement about the way we do business or not on the left. I digress. RFK Jr., his nomination has been advanced out of the committee. you know you're in trouble when your cousin shows up. So for Hegseth, it was his mama who didn't like him.
That's right.
And he still became defense secretary. His mama talked about him, and he still got the job. So RFK Jr.'s cousin, Caroline Kennedy, daughter of JFK, former ambassador, she shows up and says, do not give my cousin this job.
Right.
And they vote him out of committee anyway.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices.
Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips?
But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active liver tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver, and at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day active liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of Active Liver.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. You can find Active Liver at Amazon.com, or for a volume discount, visit NewNordicUSA.com. Go to new, NORDICUSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New year, new you, New Nordic.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, and I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Marcus Anthony Hunter. Before I get to RFK Jr., I guess our last comments hit a nerve. Yeah. So I see posts going crazy right about now. Let me read a couple of them. Democrats were gaslighting the pro-Palestinian protesters, Tavis, and anti-war protesters. It's the gaslighting that, in part, I believe, turned them off from the left. They would rather deal with the devil they know.
Yeah, and my thing is, do you know him?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and what does it mean to deal with the devil? Isn't the whole point to defeat the devil? And so, I mean, it's a prisoner's dilemma for sure. But also it's very clear where the Republican Party stands, not even just Trump, on this very issue. They were not a part of those peace protests. They were not a part of those encampments. In many of the Fox News spaces, they were describing those people as deserving arrest, as offenders, and all of these other things. So while we may not have heard from Donald Trump directly because he was facing 34 felonies and all of these other shenanigans he was in, you know, I think it's misleading to not act like we don't have a working understanding of how he gets down.
Yep. Another comment here. Tavis, you're wrong. I love how that one starts out. Tavis, you are wrong. Thank you. Trump is going to get the same kind of pushback that Biden received. He's going to get pushback. The difference, though, Tavis, is, and this is where I thought you were going to go, is that Trump, I'm cleaning this up for radio, Trump don't give a F. He will let the protesters know he don't give a F. Joe Biden really didn't give a F, but had to act like he did, and that's really the only difference between the two, says this person.
Yeah, except one of the other things I was a part of in the reparative justice space toward the end of last year after the election was the big fear that a lot of nonprofits had about not only losing funding, but being noted as terrorist organizations. And many of them that felt that way were folks who were pro-Palestinian. So it's also to say that approach is under Donald Trump's regime of creating this idea of certain nonprofits being terrorist organizations, many of them being the same organizations that help to mobilize and catalyze the very movement we're talking about.
Yeah, I did read that comment that said, Tavis, you're wrong. But just for the record, there are a lot of people agreeing with me right now. I'm seeing your post as well. Norwood and many others who are saying 100, Tavis, 100. You're right. We shall see. I would love to be wrong about this.
Yeah.
I just know Democrats. And I'm looking right now at this fatigue. I'm looking right now at this lack of resistance. I'm looking at a Democratic Party that is lost in the wilderness. I'm looking at. I'm just trying to see what the agenda. I'm just disturbed right now.
Yeah.
By just a lack of an agenda. And I just think Democrats are going in circles right now. So all of a sudden they're going to spin out of that and then start hitting Trump.
It's giving Walter Mondo.
Yeah, you see that. You see that? Our remaining moments. Yeah, that part, as they say, that part. Now I'm speechless. That never happens. Our remaining moments with Marcus Anthony Hunter when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get us claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol.
Who transformed her life to become a community leader. Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their programs. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
One finer point on this issue that Marcus and I were just discussing. Patrick Shishong, the owner of the LA Times, as you recall, came out and said they did not, as you recall, the Washington Post didn't endorse Kamala either. They've been doing it for years. They didn't endorse. The LA Times didn't endorse. I just want to go on the record saying this. The owner of the LA Times said they didn't endorse Kamala because of the Israel-Gaza policy. When Donald Trump starts acting a fool or emboldening, yeah, that's right. That's the word, right?
Sure is.
Thank you. Didn't sound right coming out. Sometimes a word doesn't sound right coming out of your mouth, even though you know it's a word.
Yeah, that's right.
When they started emboldening Trump, that is, Bibi, after this meeting in the White House today, let's see what the owner of the LA Times and the LA Times editorial board says about Trump when he does the same thing that Joe Biden did.
Right.
Because you think these weapon sales are going to stop?
Right.
You know these weapon sales ain't going to stop.
Right.
What's the LA Times going to say then?
Right.
So you'll go after Biden and use that as an excuse to not endorse Kamala, but what about Trump?
Right.
So I'm just saying, I'm just going on the record. Let's just wait and see for a few months and see what the LA Times says then. But I digress on that. I've got 3 minutes left. RFK Jr.'s nomination to be health secretary is out of committee, goes to the floor. We shall see what happens. But it's a scary moment. It's a grim moment for us to see people assuming positions for which we know they ain't qualified.
Yeah, the whites are whiting. I mean, we're back at the beginning where qualification, smalification, you know. And I think the wild part about all of it is also that there's a question about his mental stability. I mean, in addition to like certain kinds of qualifications, is the elevator going all the way up to the top floor? I mean, that seems like that's a basic request from somebody holding a cabinet position of this measure of power. And there are those questions. Like we talked a lot during the presidential election about the mental faculties of Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And Donald Trump said, he passed the test so well, they'd never seen it before. I want to know about RFK's tests, where is he falling on all sorts of scales of things? And then also, I think in a time where we're still, in virus central, coronavirus is still spreading, the flu is real. And then there are other unknown diseases that are still circulating and being created and evolving at this particular point. And someone who is all over the place and also in scary directions about what it means to have healthy and safe children at the very least in schools. So you have him coming in on one side, which is how we get to children being vaccinated and other things. And then the Department of Education is also being shut down, which oversees free lunch and a bunch of other programs. So we start thinking about the most vulnerable children who are now going to be caught out there, and I think when we start thinking about Donald Trump and some of the policies that President Trump is putting forward, we should also start thinking a lot about and using about our children. How are our children going to survive this? We're adults. We know how the government gives it up, but the children deserve a shot.
I'll close on this note, and I've enjoyed this hour with Marcus Anthony Hunter, as I always do when he comes in the studio. But God help us all if another pandemic breaks out while RFK Jr. is health secretary.
Right.
You ain't gonna have Dr. Fauci here this time to help you.
Right.
You got RFK Jr.
Right.
And to the point that Dr. Hunter just made, all his points of view, his POVs on vaccines, et cetera, God help us if another pandemic breaks out and he is your secretary of HHS. I'll leave it there. Marcus, appreciate you as always. Love you, man. Thanks for coming in.
Love you too.
My best to your mother.
Hey, she listening.
There you go.
Just made her day.
Shout out to your mom. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. China is imposing tariffs on U.S. products in retaliation for President Trump's tariffs. Starting February 10th, China will add 15% tariffs on coal and liquefied natural gas and 10% on crude oil, farm equipment, and some cars. The opening bell rings after a rough start to February on Wall Street. Stocks did eventually manage to trim losses after a sharp sell-off yesterday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet with President Trump at the White House today, marking the first foreign leader visit of Trump's second term. Netanyahu is in D.C. as negotiations with Hamas to extend the ceasefire are set to resume.